Hi, it's Darcy. Thank you for taking the time to answer my questions. My first question is, what inspired you to write the Odyssey of Phoebe Quilliam?
Hey Darcy, thank you so much for your first question. The Odyssey of Phoebe Quilliam was inspired mainly by my love of Greek mythology. I have loved Greek myths ever since I was old enough to read, whether it's Theseus and the Minotaur or Perseus and Medusa. And there is one Greek myth in particular, the tale of the hero Odysseus, as told in the poem The Odyssey by the Greek poet Homer, which is the underpinning for Phoebe's story, because through strange magic, Phoebe is actually transported into the world of the Odyssey. And in her bid to escape and get back to her own world and her own home, she joins forces with a young boy who is searching for his long-lost father, last seen fighting alongside Odysseus at the Trojan War. The second inspiration is portal stories. Some of my favorite books and films are portal stories, going from one world into another, whether that's The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, or the film Labyrinth, which, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. I was obsessed with it when I was growing up. And combining my love of portal stories with my love of Greek mythology, I've always wanted to write a story about someone from our world going into a world of Greek myth and finding themselves trapped there and having to battle against some of the same monsters and challenges in order to get home. And Phoebe's story gradually formed from that idea. There is some personal experience in there as well. One of the tough things that Phoebe is facing in her own life is that her beloved grandmother, Cass, who's passed on a love of Greek myths to Phoebe, is suffering from a cruel illness, which is depriving her of her memories. I've seen loved ones have to go head to head with that particular monster, and it's one of the things Phoebe learns, that not all monsters are the type that have 3 heads or live in a swamp. There are the ones that you take with you wherever you go, monsters of grief and of fear and of guilt, feeling like you can't help someone. But ultimately, though, Phoebe's is not, I hope, a depressing story. It is optimistic and adventurous, and one that I hope will inspire readers to go and check out some Greek myths if they don't know them very well already, especially the Odyssey.
Which scene are you most proud of, and which gave you the most trouble writing?
The scene I am most proud of is actually the first scene in the book, where we meet Phoebe for the first time and get an insight into her relationship with her grandmother Cass, which, as I've said, is a really important thread in the story. I'm proud of it because it took me a really long time to get it right. I kept writing it and rewriting it over and over, trying to make sure it tells you enough but doesn't tell you too much, that it gave you a clue there was going to be some sad themes in the story, but not in a way that would hopefully put you off reading it. And in the end, I think I got it right, and I think it sums up the mood of adventure blended with jeopardy, but also hopefulness that I wanted the book to have.
My next question is, do you have writing rituals, like a time of day or specific location, that helps you write?
I don't have a specific time of day when I write. I fit it in very much when I can, which sometimes has to be around my other job as a teacher. The only rule I have when I sit down to write is that I have to write a minimum of 500 words in a day. 1,000 is better, but I can live with 500, especially if I've not had much time that day. I also don't have a specific location to write in. Sometimes I'll write at my desk at home, sometimes I'll go to a local cafe, sometimes I'll go work in a library. I actually find it can help me if I'm a bit stuck to change the scenery around me.
Do you have a favourite myth or mythological hero?
I have lots of favourite myths. I love the story of Daedalus and Icarus in particular. Daedalus being the craftsman who built the labyrinth on Crete, in which the Minotaur is imprisoned. And then in trying to escape from Crete, Daedalus makes a pair of wings for himself and his son Icarus, in order that they can fly away. I won't tell you what happens, just in case you don't know. I will say I gave the name Icarus to a horse in my first children's book, Race to the Death, which is the opener in my Circus Maximus series about a girl trying to become a charioteer in ancient Rome. And I knew that if readers knew that myth, they might worry a bit about Icarus, the horse. But my favorite scene in all Greek mythology is actually in the Odyssey. It's near the end when Odysseus gets back to Ithaca, his homeland, and he sees his old dog Argos, who has been waiting for 20 years for his master to finally come home. And again, I'm not going to tell you what happens, but I will tell you that there is a dog in the Odyssey of Phoebe Quilliam called Claude, who belongs to Cass, Phoebe's grandmother. And Claude is probably my favorite character other than Phoebe herself in the story, and he is inspired by Argos. There's no need to worry about Claude, though. He's going to be okay.
Has your perception of mythology changed over the years? For example, I think my view on Medusa has changed from a villain to a victim as I have gotten older.
I love that you've changed your view on Medusa. One of my favorite aspects of Greek myth is that there isn't one correct version of them. Lots of ancient Greek and Roman writers wrote their own versions of those stories. And so while an author like Homer might paint you a picture of a so-called monster as purely evil, another later author might come along and paint you a different picture and might suggest how that monster came to be a monster. And quite often you might think, well, it wasn't really their fault, and it's not actually fair that they were made to live that way and had to be seen that way. And it could definitely change your view of them. And I've actually explored that idea a little bit with the monster that I created specially for Phoebe to face in my book. But I don't want to give too much away about that right now. I hope people will go and want to read Phoebe's story and find out. Thank you so much for your questions, Darcy. And I have to say a huge thank you to Blackwell's for making the Odyssey of Phoebe Quilliam your children's book of the month for September. I could not be more grateful. I'm so honored, and just thank you very much for giving me this chance to introduce you to Phoebe's story.
Thank you for answering my questions. Darcy and Willow out.